Hi, it's Maximus Mark, and today my qualm is with breakfast cereals. Now, we've all been taught since probably the ages of dot that we were to eat breakfast cereals in the morning. Now, today I'd like to go against the grain because I definitely don't consume any breakfast cereals. What I have in the morning when I wake up is most of the time it's a steak with a source of fat. So that source of fat might be 2 eggs and the full eggs, or an avocado and some nuts. But it's definitely a high protein, high fat breakfast which sees me through the day a lot longer than any carbohydrate breakfast you could possibly offer me. But why am I so against breakfast cereals? Well, when you get products like this one, that on the label it has high in iron, high in B vitamins. Well, let's look at that for a second. Now, where do you find B vitamins? Where do you find iron? Well, you find them in meat. So obviously, and if it is in anywhere else like grains or vegetables, it's not to a significant amount by any means. So high in iron and high in B vitamins, how does grains, something that naturally doesn't have B vitamins and doesn't have iron, how can it be high in B vitamins and iron? Well, simply, it's fortified with them. And the only reason why it's fortified with them is to make that product more attractive to the unsuspecting consumer. So since you get a product that doesn't originally have these things in it, you put synthetic vitamins in it and you say, hey, it's healthy for you because it has a trace amount of synthetic vitamins, doesn't make it healthy. I've said this before in a few other videos, but you can polish a turd all you want. At the end of the day, it's still a turd. So the other reason I don't like breakfast cereals like this is because it says whole grains. Like, whole grains mean something. Now, I'll be the first to admit, whole grains are better for you than refined grains or processed grains, for sure, because there's at least some amounts of vitamins and minerals in them. But let's really look at the interaction of grains in our body. Now, if you have an intolerance towards grains, which, you know what, a lot of people do, and there's a lot of clinical nutritionists and biosignature practitioners who find the same thing as definitely I have. When you start to get someone off grains, they do a lot better. So if you have an intolerance towards grains, and even it could be a slight intolerance, blue eyes and blonde hair, for example, you probably shouldn't be eating grains because your genotype is not suited for it, simply. And I'll let you guys in YouTube land test that one out on yourself. Have a week of grains and then go off the grains and see how you feel, and then introduce them again, and then you can tell me if you feel better. But the point is that if you have an allergic response to grains, it doesn't matter how big or small it is, it doesn't matter if it's whole grains or refined grains, you're still going to get that response. The other thing is we need to look at how grains actually processed and digested in the body. I mean, in terms of, say, something like basmati rice versus white rice, something like there's a 1% difference, or a 1 point difference between the two. So what does it tell us? They both hit the bloodstream and our blood sugar in the same way. So it's not a huge difference. And you really want to look at, if you want to really get the best results you can possibly get, you really want to look at managing a hormone called insulin and managing your blood sugar. Now, refined carbohydrates, for the most part, well, definitely don't do that. And your whole grains are, again, another way to fool the consumer that they're getting a great source of nutrients when they're really not. Now, another big qualm I have with breakfast manufacturers is that, the marketing, the pure downright lies that they do in the marketing of children's cereals. Say, for example, things like Cocoa Pops or Rice Bubbles or Nutri-Grain, calling them high in protein and high in calcium. Well, again, all these things are fortified. And, the way Nutri-Grain gets around it, I mean, if you read it, it's full of so much sugar. So, for the 5 grams of protein that you're getting 50 grams of sugar. Now, the way I always think about sugar, and I tell people to look at sugar when they read the label, every 5 grams is a teaspoon. So if you pick up a breakfast cereal that says 50 grams of carbohydrates, and under the bottom it says 25 of which come from sugar, that's 5 teaspoons of refined white sugar that you're actually having in that meal. And then to think about it, people put milk on there, and then what do they put on their cereal? They put even more sugar, which is tremendously bad. And I would say, and I might get attacked for saying this, but most of the world's health problems start and end with too much consumption of white refined sugar that is found in processed foods. Now, when you talk to people, do they have sugar? Most people lie to themselves, or at least lie to me and tell me they don't have any sugar. But then when I look at what they're doing in a day, they're having a lot of processed and packaged foods. So today's video, I'd really like you to start to become a food detective, not only when it comes to cereals, but when it comes to everything that you're putting in your body. Because at the end of the day, you only have one body. What I always find tremendously outrageous is when people spend absurd amounts on things like cars and motorbikes, which can easily be broken and crashed and be rebrought and insurance. They're not valuable, but you only have one body. So you really need to take the time, look at what you're putting inside your body, read the labels, look how much carbohydrates in a label, and if more than 50% of that is, or even less, I mean, if it's as much as 20% of that is coming from white sugar, if it's just sugar, don't eat or consume that product. You want the product to be as low in sugars, especially refined sugars, as possible. And take up my challenge of giving the Special K the kick and having a wholesome breakfast, say something like a piece of meat and a fat sauce. Do that for a week. Let me know how you go. Post on this video. Love to hear from you. Anyway, till next time, guys, I hope you supplement smart, eat well, and train hard.